Hi, welcome to Sober Connections. I'm Jesse Mitchell,
And I'm J.R. Wolf.
and today we're going to talk about our origin stories. I think the thing that both of us find interesting that we've had multiple conversations now over the years is about what led us to our choices when it comes to use, specifically alcohol, and why it was so difficult to come to the place where we decided to stop and our continued conversations that support each other with non-judgment and help each other kind of continue on through our journeys. Wolf, do you have anything to add to that little bit?
When you said origin story, it reminded me of there's two origin stories, right? There's when we stopped drinking, but then also how we started talking to one another. And I had stopped drinking. It's almost 3 years now. And I found out that you had stopped drinking, and um, I guess I was just going through what we were experiencing as far as when you stop and it's just a very unique situation. And so when I found out that you had stopped, I said, you stopped too? And so then what was that like for you? And how did it go? And so that's our origin story was finding each other about 3 years ago, and just having someone to talk to about it has been really nice. And so then we started wanting to talk to one another in this format and invite other people on and asking them about their experience of getting sober, why they got sober.
So, today, though, we're going to go over what we will generally be asking others.
Yeah. So with that, Jesse, well, I already said that I stopped 3 months or 3 years ago. When did you stop drinking?
Let's see. So, it was also a little over 3 years ago. It was December 18th, and we're in 2026. So, I guess it would have been 2023. Mine was after a Panthers game. I live in the Carolinas, and the Panthers, if you are a football fan, have been very stressful to watch over these last few years. Difficult to watch, painful, some might even say. And it was actually a game that we won. It was a stressful game, and I had told myself before I started the game that I was only going to have two. And I had, I don't know, probably eight. And the next day, I woke up and I was so hungover, and I got on. I was looking at social media. I saw friends that had been out partying the night before as well. Post that, and they were up riding bikes with their kids. And in that moment, it kind of dawned on me. It's like if I do this to myself, then I'm not going to be there and do the things that I want to do with my family. It really didn't feel good. It started to feel guilty. And I made the choice in that moment to see if I could cut back or stop, because it really was the hangovers were so bad and so painful. It would take me 3 days to recover, and it's not what everybody else was doing. And those things were, it was just a powerful culmination that made me take pause. How about
It's
you, Wolf?
interesting that I hear you saying that there was a curiosity, and I feel like there's like a common th theme in that when we talk to people about sobriety, that there's this sober curiosity that you're just like, what would it be like if you know, what if I stopped drinking? What what would that be like?
Well,
So did you tell
and I
anyone that you were gonna try to stop? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
and can I, like,
And
almost
can
like
I?
there's
Yeah.
curiosity too, like what if I can't? And I
Yeah.
think that in and of itself is a fairly scary question. Like, how much power does this have over me? And I
Right.
think that any of us, if we come to the question, would it be like if I stop, you're going to have that on the other side of it. What if I can't? And I think that I definitely found like relief. in my journey that I was able to make the choice on my own and kind of work through my process. And I think that no matter where you're at and what support you need, if it's something that you find where alcohol is no longer serving you, if it's affecting you in this way that really impacts your life, what we've found on the other side is that it is worth it. It's
Yeah.
not it's not easy. There are things about it still now, three and a half years out, where it's still challenging. But
I
yeah,
think it was that part that you said that of like, wow, it's really worth it, that there is it is nice on the other side. It was that part that was making me seek you out, or wanting to talk to others, wanting to talk to people who were drinking, that I wanted to reveal, be like, you guys, it's so much better over here, and no one wanted to hear it. And so that's when I wanted to talk with somebody who was going through it, because you could relate. You knew that it felt better. You felt amazing. Now, that was not the case right out the gate for me. You mentioned that you tried to do it. Now, did you tell anybody that you were going
no,
to stop?
no, it was probably 6 months before my
Mm.
wife. I can't remember exactly what was going on. I just remember the interaction where she said, "Oh, you want a beer?" Because she had grabbed maybe wine or beer, and I was like, "No," and she was like, "Why?" And I was like, "Well, I stopped." And she was like, "Really? How long have you not drank for?" And I was like, "Oh, it's been about 6 months." And she was like, "Huh."
I haven't offered you a beer in six
Well,
months.
and you're right. Like I haven't seen you. Like it didn't occur to me that it was that long. Now there are things about that are really good, right? As in, like, if she hadn't noticed, then that means there's not this crazy change in my behavior, and I never felt like my behavior was horrible when I was drinking. Matter of fact, I was like really happy and bubbly, and I was kind of worried about like ending up being blah. um
Right.
that's
I
another
definitely
path
had
we
that
can, yeah,
fear.
we can go, and I
I
think in certain ways I am blah now, and you know what, I'm okay with it. There are things about that I really enjoy. But yeah, I think that all of those things were part of what led me to be successful on my own, and again, I fully appreciate that might not be the case for others.
Yeah, that I could definitely relate to that. I was definitely fearful of being blah, of not being funny or fun. But for me, as far as wanting to stop, I had a major event, a major life event, a brush with death. I had a heart attack. I'm a vegetarian. I exercise regularly. I was actually at dance class, and I started sweating right out the gate, like right after the first song. I was short of breath. I couldn't catch my breath. I was just like, what is going on? And so I went outside and couldn't catch my breath. I felt like I wanted to burp, so I went outside. My friend said, "Are you okay?" It's okay if you call 911. And I realized I was holding on because I just didn't want to be a problem. I didn't want to cause a ruckus for nothing, so that, my fear was that I'd go to the hospital and they're saying, you got to fart, dude. Like, come on, you got some gas.
Just let it out.
So, but no, I go there, and yeah, sure enough, I'm having a heart attack. So from that point, from where I was feeling the symptoms to when they had me on the table giving me a stint, it was 30 minutes. And so time is tissue. You're feeling it, go take care of it. Like, don't feel the shame. Don't go and try to sleep it off either, because my friend who asked, you said there's no shame in calling 911. She had just recently had a friend who had tried to sleep it off and ignored the signs, and died.
Oh, wow. And you know what's in all of our conversations, I don't think I've ever heard you tell this bit of the heart attack story.
That
I
was, that's part of it, is that she had that knowledge of like just go take care of it. Like what? But see, the issue is with our system, what I'm thinking is that ambulance ride, that's going to
Right.
cost a lot of money,
That's
and
exactly where
and
my head went to. I don't want this to be a big deal. My God, this is going to be expensive.
yep. Yeah.
And if it's just a fart, like,
Well, so be it. It's a thousand
right,
dollar
right.
part. Fuck it. So yeah, so I had that event. I'm just like being reflective about what I can change. And honestly, I already had issues with the drinking. I had an event, I had a bottom out event where I went too far, and so I was already trying to stop. I had a therapist. I was trying to, be okay with it or like reduce my drinking. So I was aware of my relationship with alcohol, and I was trying to just have it be more functional rather than I was always just trying to get as inebriated as I could that was socially acceptable. I just wanted to feel good. I was just trying to feel good. I wanted to feel, and if this makes me feel good, then maybe one more will make me feel better, And so I was just always tiptoeing that line and
Do you mind if I ask a little more about that event? Because it really does. It sounds like there's two culminating events. You've got the health issue with the heart attack
yeah,
that has a relationship with alcohol, but then you have an event where I'm hearing you say it went too far. I'm kind
I
of
did.
hearing
Yeah.
like guilt behind it. Like what
Yeah,
what
it
were
was
the
an
things
awesome
that
night too, right? Because it starts off so awesome. It was
aren't they
an epic
always?
night. Halloween,
Yeah.
Halloween. I love Halloween. I love dressing up and being that character and interacting with other people who are in character. And so it was an awesome night. And so at the end of the night, I was ready to go home, but I was, very inebriated, and I called my wife. I let her know I'm on my way. Can you pick me up? I'm walking. If you could meet me. But it was more like I'm on my way. I'm on, and so in my mind, I'm like totally right there. But, and she told me how I was just mumbling, and she kind of figured out what I was saying, and so she drove out trying to find me, and she was driving down the main highway there by our house, and not the highway, but just like main street, and she sees a guy on the side of the road trying to get up onto a ledge, and he's just falling off of it, trying to get back up onto it and falling off over and over again. And that was me. I have no memory of that. I don't remember her picking me up. I don't. The last thing I remember is calling her and then trying to walk down the road. And yeah, it was embarrassing. I mean, I was an embarrassment that night. Things, she got me to the house. I proceeded to make an ass of myself at the house, and I got a letter the next morning. She couldn't even talk to me about it. I got a letter the next morning, um, just saying that this has gone on too much, and that it needs to change. And so I saw that and I read it and I said, I hope I can do this. I didn't believe I could at
Yeah,
that
kind of
point.
that, like on the other side of it, like what if I can't? Like what does that mean?
Yeah. Because I wanted to be honest, and you're feeling really bad, and it would be easy to be like, I'm never gonna do that again. But I kind of knew that it was bigger than that. But I didn't know how hard it was gonna be because it went on for another year, had the heart attack, and then even after the heart attack, it took another year, of therapy and reflection. So,
Can I ask
yeah, it
about the
was.
therapy and reflection? Because and we've had this conversation multiple times, but I really love this piece that you always bring up when it comes to like a certain strategy that you use.
So yeah, so as part of the journey, I was working with a therapist, and I started to journal, right? Just talking about what I'm feeling when I'm drinking. So this was really kind of a turning point in the whole process of not drinking, because if I were to write a book, it would be called The Price of Admission, right? About this, because that's what it became, is that I would journal every time that I drank because I was having a hard time. I was feeling guilty about it, and I'm struggling with drinking or not drinking, and just the negotiations in my mind. And so she tried a different approach. She said, "Well, how about this? Have your drink. And just jot down, just gather information. What's going on? Why are you feeling like you want to drink? Because at that point, I'm like, I don't want to drink. And now I'm struggling with it. And I'm getting negotiations and who's in charge here, right? And so have the drink, write down what you're feeling, and gather information. So over the course of time, I'd probably say about a couple of months, you could start to see patterns. And so you go to write it down, and what I found was that it was loneliness, right? It was loneliness. It was having a frustrating day, right? If someone said something that was disrespectful or that I just wanted to be okay, I wanted to be a duck with the water over on a duck's back, right? I wanted to just let go of stuff, and so boom, the release, right? It was just an easy out. I just wanted to feel better. Again, it's the same thing, right? I just want to feel good. And so having that substance was an easy way to start to stop feeling bad. So that to see those kinds of patterns, it was I don't know, it was kind of sad, to see how here I am just a lonely, hurting person, and alcohol was the friend, that I chose to turn to in order to feel better. Another one was, pre-games, right? Like what we were talking about as far as wanting to have a good time. And, before you go to a show, you've saved up all your money so you can go to the show, and you've got all these people coming to the thing. So you want to have a good time. You want to
And you
make
want
sure
to
that you
be a
are a
good
good time.
time.
You want to
Yeah.
be a good time. Exactly. Yeah, and that's kind of with what you were saying as far as I didn't want to be a dud. And that was a guaranteed good time in my mind, right? And up to a point. But if I'm being real honest about it, if you really reflect on it, you're great out the gate. And then after a while, I would start to kind of disappear into the background, and conversations were going on, or I couldn't really find where to find my footing in the conversation because I was just processing too slow after a bit. So be reflective. Think about, is
Yeah.
this serving me? Back to
Well,
what you were
and the
saying.
thing that I love about the strategy too is that it absolves some amount of guilt, as in, like, you have permission to do this, but you have to pay this price. And you made that agreement with yourself and you stuck with it.
Yeah.
That kind of gets rid of some of the guilt. I don't need to hide this. I need to explore it. Why and what am I finding? Almost scientific instead of like just led by impulsivity.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And it has a record of it too. And it's not just inside your head. There it is. You
Yeah.
you have to be conscious about your decision. And it's not just this like warring inside. Now, did you have any of those negotiations? Did you have that? It sounds like you didn't know whether or not you were going to be able to do it. You didn't tell your partner, and so
Yeah, my negotiations were more because I had tried to quit maybe 2 or 3 years prior, and I think I lasted about 6 weeks before I hopped back in. And at that time too, it was more like, am I really quitting? Am I just stopping for a little while? But when I hopped back in, it was actually kind of at a higher level than it was even before. And my experience when I'm drinking is not exactly the same. Like um I don't know that I found myself kind of going into the background when I'm drinking. I'm drinking the whole time and it's pumping me up. And the payment for me came with the hangovers where I just couldn't do anything for 3 days.
Mm.
It didn't in the moment. It was actually a generally really good time. And my body, like, I would have to drink. I have no idea how much I would have to drink to like black out. I have never blacked out from drinking, and I can drink a lot. So I think it's just the way that my liver is like not the way it's definitely not like my gut. My liver is like jacked, um,
Oh yeah,
and I work that shit out.
a six-pack
Like,
liver.
yeah, we're gonna do this tonight, boys. Get on the bench.
My
Um,
liver is ripped.
Yeah. But just how horrible again that I would feel afterwards for days and days, wherever their people seem to recover and move on with their lives. But the negotiating wasn't, yeah, okay. So this is where I would negotiate. I would tell myself I would only have a couple,
Yes.
but it would never turn into, it would always turn into 8 or 10. And then if there were liquor involved, if I could have blacked out, that would get me close to that. Um, but yeah, would just go down to smooth. What's it hit your lips?
Right. Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, all of everybody is different. Every
Yeah,
body is different, and the way they process the alcohol and their effects afterwards. I mean, I could imagine if someone doesn't have after effects, why would I stop, right? Um, and I have talked
for
to people
sure.
that way. They don't have those kinds of after effects that you're talking about, especially not to the extreme that you're talking about. So yeah, I could imagine. And then, the effect that it has on them. If they have just one and it feels really great, maybe you could just have one. But in my experience, when I was trying to stop and I would just have one, what was the point? That's not what I'm
It did
chasing.
not feel
I'm
good enough.
chasing the thing that goes up against the line.
Yeah.
I want to be right there. I want to be so inebriated that I am in control. I'm aware of it, but I'm having the most crazy time, because it lets go of those inhibitions, all of those gates, all of those things. Um, and so I guess I am drawn to that even now. Like when I go out, I do enjoy being around people who have been drinking because there is that element of surprise. There's the piece that where people aren't so like hung up and trying to hold back. I do enjoy that, but
The
when I'm out with my wife,
uninhibited.
she doesn't like that. That's unpredictable.
Well, and there are
I don't know what's
levels
gonna happen.
too, though, for
Oh
inhibition,
yeah.
right? Yeah. But I guess then let's go back to the beginning.
Okay.
Where did it start for you?
How did start drinking? That's
Yeah.
a good question. Yeah. I think that's a really important question because that's yeah, talk about origin story, right? Okay, yeah. So for me, my first taste of alcohol was I was 12 years old. I was with my friend John, and he was over for a sleepover. We're 12, right? We're playing Nerf. This is our favorite thing to do, is to play Nerf basketball, and jumping off the
Basketball with
bed. I mean,
alcohol.
yeah.
You know the old
And
song. Sing
my
along.
parents were divorced, and we're at my dad's place, and he, for some reason, I don't know, maybe we even asked him, like he's drinking, and maybe he's been drinking enough to where, he's like, when we asked him, can we have some? Sure, have a little bit. And we just had the smallest amount. He probably didn't think that it was all that big of a deal, right? I don't really know. For me now, what the hell were you thinking, man? I would never let my 12-year-old nephew do that or ever offer it, no matter how drunk I am. That just seems so wrong. But in his mind, whatever. It was amazing. We laughed so hard. We had never laughed that hard before. We were giggling and blah, and blah, and dunking it, and just it was a lot of fun. And we proceeded to go and try to find alcohol from that point on because we
Yeah.
knew how much fun we had had. And like you said, you were a real fun drunk. And that's a whole different story when people are mean and then they're gonna do an intervention on you. No one's gonna do an intervention on me at that. Well, I guess my wife did eventually, but no, but people like to be around me. People thought I was funny, and it's fun and funny, and so yeah, that was a slippery slope, and I went sliding down it.
Over a
But then
long
as
period of
pre
time.
over a long period of time, yeah,
Yeah.
and then parents continue to be split. Mom's stressed. She was a screamer, and so it became an escape. And I think that
Yeah.
that's really the real crux of it, is like it was a way to escape the chaos of the divorce, the chaos of single mom, dad disappears, and it's single mom raising two kids and the stresses of that and her own mental health issues. I had to leave the crazy, and so I'd get into my friend's car and it's like, let's get wasted, and that was the goal, was
Yeah.
to get wasted. I didn't like the taste of beer. I did, this is pre delicious beer. This is,
There is
Schlitz.
such good, delicious beer out there.
There goes our Schlitz sponsorship.
Yeah. uh, oh man. Well, we'll have
How
to
about
let it
you?
pass.
Where, what was your first taste?
My first taste, and I really do remember it, was at 4. My dad, it was my fourth birthday, and um, my
Happy
dad
birthday,
was like,
son.
"Here, try this. You're 4." He thought it was funny. I remember him thinking that was funny, and oh yeah, it's like horse piss. The old saying. It was horrible. Um, but ultimately, my dad let me try it because he struggled with alcohol mightily himself. He drank a whole lot. And I think one of the things I relate to this alcohol creeping up on me over time, because I would always compare myself to him and what his drinking looked like. And it just was wildly different. And he would drink, he was a functional alcoholic. He would drink between 12 and 24 beers a night, from when he got home from work at 4:30 to when he passed out at 9. But he would get up, go to work the next day, and that's just how he functioned. I mean, if he was hungover, he didn't recognize it or realize it because that's how he lived. And
Hmm.
he definitely was not always the happiest drunk. And there were times that I know, well, that he was aggressive with me, or angry, and alcohol is just a big part of that. So I spent most of my childhood, just kind of watching what he was doing and trying to get away from him, the more that he would drink, because it would just put me in a bad place. um, I started with substances at roughly 12 as well. I had some neighbors that lived below us that just had access to all sorts of things, and my first experience with putting substances in my body was not alcohol. I'm I think for these purposes right now, we'll just say it wasn't alcohol. It was very enjoyable, and I think 14 was when I had first tried alcohol. Weed was the second thing that I tried, and weed always made me really anxious. Uh, I definitely tried that multiple times though, because I saw other people really having fun with it, and I wanted to have fun like that too. And it just took me years to figure out it just wasn't going to do that for me.
Yeah.
But alcohol did. So the first time I tried that and got drunk, it was like, oh, kind of like what you said. I didn't care for the taste, but that feeling, that uninhibitedness, and now what I recognized was like clinical levels of anxiety. Ultimately, trauma growing up, definitely with an alcoholic father, and you know, just being very poor, and all the culmination of a lot of different traumas led to an anxious me, and alcohol got rid of the anxiety,
Hmm.
and I was so laughy and fun, and everything was just a good time, and that to me was just so powerful, because that's not how I live my life. I
Hmm.
would worry constantly, um always on the lookout for danger. And now, I definitely manage my anxiety very differently, but for years alcohol just helped me with that. And
Self-medication.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Very,
And I think, like,
very
looking
good.
back at my dad, um he definitely had some mental health issues, and he would that's how he medicated as well. you know Hindsight. At the
In
same
your
time,
story, you mentioned the irritation, the about the low level irritate. Did you want to say something? I'm sorry, did I cut you off?
no, 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 go ahead.
Okay. You mentioned the irritation, and that was one thing that was the reason why I was like, hey guys, it's so amazing over here, right? Like, stop alcohol because I don't think we're aware of that low level irritation that you were talking about, like your dad was going through. He had his mental health stuff, but then he was also, hung over, whether or not he realized it, and that irritated, just kind of like groggy. I don't have that anymore. I wake up fine, and it's great, and that is a thing that I hope that people could be reflective about. Are you waking up irritated? Are you starting your day off irritated? Because I feel like that's a sign of something that could be better.
Well, and I definitely relate to you on that one. That's the one that like keeps me from going back to it. I
Oh yeah.
definitely also wake up groggy and irritated. I mean, it does still happen, but not to the level that it would happen if I was drinking.
Yeah.
My health issues, you've got your heart stuff. I'm pre-diabetic. Sugar
Uh,
just destroys my body and gives me aches and pains everywhere, and that's part of why my hangovers would last so long,
oh yeah.
because of the sugar and how my
For
body
sure.
processes it. So there's always some level of that, but at the same time, like I wake up and I can function. And there are days that I wake up and it's not there, and those days are glorious, and I'm very appreciative of them. But I didn't, when I was drinking, that just you're right, I wouldn't have them. And you're right, my dad did not have those, based on all the issues he had until I was 12. He got really sick and went to the hospital, and the doctors at that time told him that he would have to stop drinking, which is funny because, he had stopped when I was 12, and then I started at roughly 14 when he quit drinking from 12 to when I was 16. But I had started experimenting with it, in between that when my dad had stopped. And I definitely always compared myself to him. Like I'm not him. I'm not going to be that bad. It's just funny how that works out.
Yeah, that brings up another point as far as the comparison and like what is an alcoholic. Because when I've shared what we're going through and stopping and stuff like that, people will say, "Well, I'm not an alcoholic." I certainly did not think I was an alcoholic, even with what I've described about the fact that I wanted to drink up to that point of inebriation and not go over the line. I did not think of that. It was when I went to, I think it was a CPAP or um, a sleep study, right? And they
Mm-hmm.
had a little questionnaire. How much do you drink? And it was just like, low, moderate, and heavy. And I was considered a heavy drinker for having 2 drinks a day, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that was saying 2 drinks a day. So 2 times 7, 14. And it was like, yeah, I still got my masculine, but no, but it was like over 10 a week, you're a heavy drinker, right? And I was just like, what? That's not true. That's what? And it just kept like, I'm like, wow, I'm like way over the line of what's considered a heavy drinker medically.
Yeah,
And
and 2 drinks a day sounds like nothing, right?
yeah,
Because
and
I'll,
that was me lying because I was like, yeah, there's like
that
two
was
drinks,
me
but then
being
without those
not
other
quite
drinks,
honest.
2 drinks of each alcohol. No,
Yeah.
I was kidding. But no, I mean, seriously, it was not like I held back. It was just like, I'm not feeling that's a
Hmm.
little too much, right? And then I would stop. It wasn't like I had any parameters. But when I was trying to stop, that's what it was. I was like trying to give myself some limits. Yeah, like maybe one a night, maybe just on the weekends, and that's eventually how I quit. So let's go there. How
Yeah.
did you quit?
Well, like I said, I'd gotten up that morning, and I remember again it dawning on me, and it kind of just punched me in the face, like this is not how everyone else functions.
Right.
And I do think, my process, again, is a little different, and we all have what works for us. I think that there are people that can have a relationship with alcohol that can be um, more healthy, and that it's not like all or nothing. And so, I don't want to judge where anyone is at, but I judged myself for sure because I was like, oh, damn, I'm not a good person for 3 days after this. Like this
Mm,
is not okay with me. So I actually, I just told myself, I'm like, I'm going to hold off for a little while. I'm going to stop and just see what that feels like. And in my mind, I was actually hopeful that I would wake up on a consistent basis, not drinking 2 or 3 weeks, and I wouldn't see a difference.
Hmm.
And after 2 or 3 weeks, the difference that I saw was so undeniable that I just I couldn't go back to it. Um, and put myself back in that place. And I was actually a little let down because I did, man. I love, and like you said, good tasty beverages, and I live here in one of the beer cities of the world, and there's just so much good beer everywhere.
Hmm.
I'll have a non-alcoholic beer, and I actually really do enjoy it. Um,
That was really helpful.
but that was it. That was it. It was like, wow, this feels so different. And I notice how much difference I'm functioning and how much better it is just after 2 or 3 weeks.
Hmm.
Um, like I said, though, I didn't tell anybody because I still was like, I don't trust, I don't want to feel guilty if I tell somebody that I've stopped and that I just start again because this is just not enough time. This is not enough time for me to feel safe doing that. And I do know enough that guilt and addiction, those two things together, again, which makes me think the way that you did it with your therapist was so powerful because it helped alleviate that point. That guilt bit is one of the most dangerous pieces of trying to stop something and feeling failure and then just going to despair, giving up, and going back in. So for all those things, I didn't tell people, and I, I just kept seeing how I felt the next day, and it just kept feeling good and better. And even now, 3.5 years later, I remember how bad it felt that morning, specifically that
Hmm.
morning. But anytime I would do it really well. And no matter how much fun it would be that night, it's just not worth it to me.
Right. Yeah, I can relate. It's interesting because you did the you were reflective in your own mind. So you're reflecting on it and being intentional about it, right? So there's the commonality, right? You're reflecting on it. You're not journaling, but at least you're like checking in and noticing, right? So you got to be conscious of it.
Almost like
And
a
so
body
yeah,
feeling journal. Like if I think about it right now, I feel the pain and I feel it all over my body. All I have to do is like just think about
yeah,
that morning, and then it's there, and it's like, ooh, yeah, no, that really hurts.
right. Yeah, and I can relate, and for me it was that I had I was like I was saying I was putting parameters around it. I was putting limits, right? I'm only going to have one. I'm only going to have it on the weekend. I'm only going to do it at a show. And so then one time I went over that limit. I went three, and I felt sick, and I just was like, this is it. This isn't worth it because I know that I'm chasing that. I want to feel it. And if I just have one, I'm not feeling it. So what's the point? What am I
Yeah.
doing? Why do I have to have one? It just felt like I was placating something in there. Someone. It felt like a different like I'm trying to feed that beast and it wasn't feeding the beast. And so why do I even have that
Yeah, and three's
one?
really, I mean, three's not that much. That's a powerful reaction to have from three, compared to the one. That's really good information.
So then, yeah, it was really good information. So then, once you get over that hump, you said 3 weeks. There was like a 3 month thing. There's a point where it's like, oh, okay, I'm past this. And you said that after 3 weeks, you were like, okay, um, this is I'm feeling better, and I can relate to that in that it was after. I think it was. I'm gonna have to say like 3 months to the
Hmm.
point where I felt like I was totally clear of it, where it was
Okay.
like, wow, this is done, because I was able to pour a glass of wine for my wife, who was still drinking. She always had a really positive relationship with alcohol, where she could have just one and she enjoyed it, and that was that. And so when I was able to finally be able to pour her a glass of wine and not feel like I'm being left out, or go to a show or go to a barbecue, I would say for me, and it must be different for everybody, right? And so where is that line where you feel safe to go out? Um,
Do you
do
still feel
you?
like you're in the clear?
Definitely. I
Okay,
definitely
all
feel
right.
like I'm in the clear because it was so hard. For me, it was because it was such a struggle. I don't want to go back there. I have zero desire. There are times where I'm like, oh, I kind of miss it. Well, I wonder, but because it was so hard, I don't want to go back because it was such a struggle.
Yeah, like
But
what a
having that
journey.
threshold, I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah, what a journey.
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
and so for me, I actually there are times that I definitely feel like I'm in the clear, but then there are times that I don't.
Uh,
And I know you go to shows and you go and do those things, and I still haven't. Like I don't do a whole lot of things yet, and that's it. There's still some fear there, and some what ifs. Now we did buy tickets to go see Ben Harper in September. That'll be honestly that'll be the first show that I go to
yeah.
since I've stopped. It's coming. I know it's coming, um, and I'm really excited about it and love that guy. So um, I don't I don't feel too worried about it. Um, but again, that's still many months away from now. So still a bit of time between now and then. But I can be around people that are drinking, and that's not the thing that makes me want to drink anymore. I definitely remember feeling that way in the beginning. But there are just certain things. It's like if I'm grilling and outside in a spring evening, there's something about that. Really want some alcohol then.
Yeah, I
Um,
mean that's part of it. Yeah, I mean that's all that training, all that
right.
past association with it. Having a reward at the end of the day was a big deal for
Yeah.
me. And so the non-alcoholic beverages, I that was such a godsend. I
Mm.
love that in that just having that taste and that association with that taste. I do feel like a giddiness about it, and I do, and I wonder if there are some chemical reactions in that smelling, tasting, and you still feel that
Our
good feeling.
brains are pretty powerful. I
Yeah,
would not be, there. Like, is there some placebo?
yeah.
Um,
Treat
Probably.
yourself though.
Yeah.
That's what my advice would be is to find that delicious beverage. Do you have a delicious beverage that you treat yourself to now?
I drink a lot of coffee, but I don't.
Even in the afternoons?
If I do a social event with people?
Yeah.
Again, I got to be so careful with sugar. Stupid old fogey problem. But like diet caffeinated drinks, like stimulants. I will treat myself with stimulants. Those are a good time. Um, what? So I guess
Hold
what?
on.
Yeah,
You said, but keep that question. I want you to keep that question, but I don't
yeah.
want to let you off the hook on this one because you
Mm.
said the I have to be careful about the sugars because of old fogey problems. My bet is that in the future, there sugar is going to be regulated in the same way that nicotine is and alcohol,
Maybe.
and because it is a killer,
Yeah.
and so I think that sugar is bad for us all, like from the get-go, right? And we're like indoctrinating the kids and go out and Halloween and beg for candy, and we're going to give you candy and you can eat as much candy as you want, and then then they grow up and now you can't have candy because you're an adult. It's like, well, you shouldn't have been having it then either, right? And so I just want to put that little PSA out there that I think sugar is a killer. That'll be
my
our next
body, my
podcast.
mind wishes that you were not correct because it's so good. My body definitely agrees with you. um
Your head is like this again.
I
Fucking.
know. Sugar, and it does. Sugar still gets me. I have moments in stress, and those two things are related where I have way more sugar than I should.
So what was your
um
question?
yes, I think my question is just to kind of bring us back around to the end now. If there's somebody that kind of finds themselves in a place where they're wondering what it might be like to stop drinking, what advice would you give
Mm.
them? What would you tell them?
Sober curiosity. I love it. And that's who when I'm telling my story, those are the people who are more interested in the story than others, right? When they're
Right, of
like,
course.
what's that like? Yeah. The sober curious ones. My advice is the journaling. It's like uh gather information, talk to other people about it, right? And it goes back to that, 12-year-old giggly, like, if this is fun, alcohol will make it more fun, because I was just a 12-year-old kid who giggled anyway, and I just giggled more. And that was a slippery slope. And so I would say to them to gather information, be reflective with how it makes you feel, and is it worth it? Going back to how your experience, how you were reflective on the after effects. How about you? What would your advice be for the sober curious?
Yeah, I think, and this is really what we're living right now. You said be reflective, but but be honest. So we're honest with ourselves. We're honest with other people. If you're in a spot and you're able to talk about it, right? That's the sober connection. Uh, pun intended. But there is power in it, and if you can find, we did not do Alcoholics Anonymous. We didn't do any other programs. We kind of found each other and we did this worked for us. Now those programs are out there and they can be very helpful, but I think for anybody that's able to kind of look at what's good about it and then what's bad about it and be really honest about both sides, that's going to leave you with the answer in the equation. Does this serve me? Is this good for me? Are the effects of it, do they outweigh, does the benefit outweigh the cost?
Mhm.
And both of us have come to a place where we realize that it did not.
Right.
If that's where you find yourself, listen. And if you'd like to come on and chat with us about it here at Sober Connections, let us know. We will
Yeah, we'd
have
love to
our,
hear your story. We'd love
yeah,
to
and
have you on. And and you mentioned the AAA, triple A? No, the AA meetings, or Dharma. There's the Dharma, not a Dharma initiative. That was the thing. uh, but there are other programs that are alternatives to AA, and those work great. And I think it's in the same vein as what we're doing right here, right? It's making connections, making sober connections, talking about it, being reflective, and that's all we're trying to do. For me, those programs, that it was like talking into a vacuum, and you say it in a group, and then it goes on to the next person. I needed this back and forth. I love this, and hearing your story, asking you a deeper question, and being able to tell my story and you ask me a question. So if you'd like to do that with us, we'd love to have you on. Love to hear what your journey's been like.
thank you all so much for joining Sober Connections. I'm Jesse Mitchell.
And I'm J.R. Wolf. If you'd like to reach out to us, please just email us and let us know your story. We'd love to hear from you.
We are soberconnections@gmail.com. It will be linked here at the bottom for the YouTube channel, but if you're listening to it on Buzzsprout or Spotify, that's why we said it out loud.